Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Anna, aka Brookwillow, and today I'm going to show you everything I've ever sewn part 2. If you're an OG viewer here, you may remember my video from last summer, which was everything I've ever sewn. In that video, like the title suggests, I showed you just about everything I've ever sewn, and that had taken place over the course of a few years of garments that I made. This year, I have made probably even more garments than I did in that video combined, and I thought it was time to make a part 2. So I am showing just about everything. There may be a couple pieces that I don't show because they're gifts or because the pattern isn't available anymore, so I just don't really want to show something off that people can't purchase. The way that I'm going to format this one is I'm going to go in chronological order, starting from summer last year up until summer this year. And so you can kind of see how my thought process changed over time, or maybe my choice in fabric or colors, who knows, if there's really any correlation to any of that anyways. But let's just jump right into the first garment that I had made since the last video. Before I jump into it, I do want to preface by saying a lot of these patterns are going to be from the Birgitta Helmersson Zero Waste Patterns book. It's a book that I personally highly recommend, and you'll see because I've made a lot of it from it. But have no fear, it's not all going to be from that book, but the first few garments I have on here are from that book. And the first one being the Zero Waste Block shirt. Now, in this particular book, Birgitta made, I believe it's 5 different block patterns, and they're kind of foundational patterns to make even more garments from it. So when I say block, it means that it's just this core piece, and if there's any other patterns from it, it combines different versions of these blocks to make a whole new garment, which I think is pretty cool. So within the 5 blocks, I think she has a total of 25 patterns in the book. I also think that this book, or really any type of zero waste pattern, is really nice for fabric that is very precious, and that's definitely the case with this next one. So like I said, it's the Zero Waste Block shirt by Birgitta Helmersson. And this is a short sleeve shirt with a collar, back pleat, and a front closure with buttons. For this particular shirt, it's the total body circumference is determined by the width of the fabric. So you kind of have to make sure that you have the right width of the fabric to make these different sizes, and you can always cut the fabric down. But if you're sewing kind of the larger half of the sizes like I am, you have to be very conscious about, like I said, how wide your fabric is to make sure that it's going to fit your body. The length of this particular shirt is about 24.5 inches, but can be altered. I ended up sticking with the recommended length for this garment, and I think it's kind of perfect for what it turned out to be. Overall, I really do like the boxier fit of this shirt. One thing that I don't love though is the fact that the shoulders are a bit more snug, and you can see it when I'm wearing it. The fabric kind of bunches up in the armpit area. So I think if I were to make this one again, I would definitely allow or cut a slightly larger piece in that section and hope that it doesn't really affect other pieces, because that's the other thing with zero waste garment patterns is you waste no fabric. So if you cut something larger in a different area, that means something like another piece is going to be a bit smaller. So you kind of have to think about that when you're cutting those pieces. The fabric I used is from a website called fabricmarket.com. I made a big purchase from there about a year and a half ago, and I'm still actually working through some of those fabrics. And it's basically a website full of dead stock fabric, and they do a really good job with describing each fabric, and they try really hard to determine what the content is. I believe that they do burn tests on it to figure out what the fabric content is. This particular one is a cotton fabric with embroidery all over it. I often get asked if I embroidered this myself, and I feel kind of like a fraud because I didn't, but I'm always honest with people and said that I bought it embroidered like this. But I do just love this fabric so much, and I really love how it turned out with this particular pattern. Overall, I really like this top. I'm not sure if I would make this particular pattern again. I think there's just so many great looking button-up shirt patterns out there that I would love to just discover more and not put all of my eggs in one basket in terms of a button-up shirt. The next pattern I made is the Zero Waist Sundress, again by Birgitta Helmersson. And this is one of those that I was kind of mentioning where she takes 2 or more blocks of garments and creates a whole new garment with it. So this one used this Singlet Block, which is basically just a tank top pattern that I actually made. It'll be the last garment that I show you in this series. And then she combined it with a skirt pattern to make a dress. And I love the way this one turned out. I'm definitely going to make more of these in the future. There's nothing that I love more than wearing just a flowy loose skirt or dress in the summertime. She also has you use bias binding to finish off, the collar, and that's also what the straps are made out of, is with the bias binding. So it's all kind of one seamless, for the most part, straps. For this pattern, you can kind of fine-tune your size a little bit more. So I made an extra large out of this one, and the length of the dress is determined by the width of the fabric used. So I was actually surprised with how long this dress turned out to be for me. And I love the length of it, and it must have just been that the fabric I used was a bit wider than others. I can't remember what the fabric width was ultimately. I made this like a year ago and I didn't really take any notes on it. That's definitely something that I can always get better with over time. The fit of this dress is very flowy and comfortable. One thing that might be an issue is if you're trying to hide bra straps, it would be very difficult, not only because the straps are just very thin, but they're also pretty close to the neck. They're not really where a bra strap tends to sit. So that's something to think about. I personally have been kind of exploring wearing kind of like the bralette type bras as a layering piece and not caring about it showing so much. So I try to make sure that I'm like wearing a color that works well with the outfit. The fabric that I used for this dress is also from fabricmarket.com. It is like a viscous blend or like a tencel-y type material. It's definitely not straight linen or cotton. There's some kind of feeling to it that gives me like a satiny vibe almost. I don't know. I don't know what the fabric content is. I do absolutely love this shade of green. It's probably my favorite shade of green, just kind of a piney green. And I always like it because it matches my eye color, so I feel like it brings out my eyes. And that's how I feel about this top that I'm wearing. It's like the same shade of green as well. So I've been getting a lot of use out of this dress. And it's also one of those dresses that works super well layered underneath like a knit garment, since it doesn't have any sleeves to fuss with, and it's just like a super slinky flowy fabric. It just flows very easily under some sweaters too. So if you are the type of person that really likes to layer dresses under your sweaters, I would recommend this particular pattern. This next garment is the Zero Waist Tiered Skirt by Birgitta Helmersson, and it's basically her skirt block, and all it really does is add an additional tier to it to make the skirt even longer. With that being said, I actually had to add a fourth tier because, again, the width of the fabric determines the length of the skirt, and this width just must not have been very wide because the skirt, when I first did just the 3 tiers, it cut off at like a really awkward spot, like mid-calf. I feel like there's a certain point where you don't want to be like in the gray area, and I think it's mid-calf just felt weird, especially for this skirt. I wanted it to be longer and flowier, so I did end up making an additional tier. The only problem is I didn't have enough fabric for it to be gathered at the bottom, so the bottom tier matches the width of the tier just above it, so it doesn't give it that ruffle effect, but I don't think it looks bad by any means, and I don't think people might even really notice it unless I pointed it out. So I do think that hack worked out for me in that particular instance. Again, this is just another very flowy garment. That definitely is like the trend with all of these pieces that I'm making. I just love things oversized and flowy. I love to be able to move around in my clothing. I kind of get freaked out if things are too tight on me. I think it might be like a sensory issue or something. So that's why pretty much everything you're going to see here is oversized and flowy. Again, this fabric was from Fabric Market. I think it's like shirting material technically, but it worked out really well in the skirt too. Especially it gave it like that structure that I love in it that just exemplifies the ruffling in each tier. It's kind of hard to tell the color of this skirt, especially far away. It looks like it might just be like a solid cream color, but when you look at it up close, it's actually a yellow and white gingham pattern, and it's very small gingham, and I think it's really pretty. But I do kind of have a hard time styling this skirt. I think I'm very limited to whatever top I want to wear with it. Anything white looks super good with this skirt, and I think if I wear a white top with this skirt, it gives very springy, summery vibes, so it's really hard to kind of style it in the fall and winter. However, I did make a video styling my knits for fall last winter, and I think I was able to get it to be about as fall of a piece as you can get with this one, but overall I think it's more of a spring summer skirt. Another thing with my styling that I've been really trying to do lately is kind of de-style or unstyle my garments. I've talked about this in the past. I used to be a visual merchandiser for H&M, and so my job was putting together outfits to dress all of the mannequins, or that was part of my job. And I think we had it drilled into our head so hard that we had to French tuck absolutely everything. And that translated into my own personal style too. And I'm trying to just get out of that mindset. I don't want to get stuck into styling my clothing the same way for my entire life. I like to evolve my clothing throughout the years, and I think one way you can do that is just by styling things different. I think ever since I've been untucking things, it feels like I kind of have a whole new wardrobe. So that whole tangent was going into how I have been really liking to style this skirt, having whatever top I'm wearing just flow over the top of it and not feeling like I need to do a French tuck. And I think it gives it like a really cool vibe. And yeah, I'm going to continue exploring this styling or unstyling trend. I don't know. Next up, we have the Nepheline Blouse by Vivan, Shao, Chen, and this is the second time that I actually made this blouse. The first time I made it in a white linen bedsheet, and I did the ruffle version of it, so there's like a ruffle neckline, and I loved this pattern so much I wanted to make it again without the ruffle. The sizing for this garment ranges from a 32-inch bust to a 60-inch bust, and I'm not sure if that's garment measurements or like what size you need to be. So think about that if you end up buying this pattern. I made a size 6, but I do think I could easily go down to a size 5. I think I sometimes go up sizes a lot if I'm concerned it's not going to be oversized enough, but this pattern was intended to be oversized as it is, and so I think I can trust it to go down a size if I do make this blouse again. For the fabric, this is fabric that I found when I went thrift shopping in South Dakota with my friend, and I found this particular fabric as well as some other fabric that I'll show you, and yeah, I just fell in love with it. It's just like a cotton material, but the colors in this fit with every single season, and same with the tartan pattern as well. I just love the combination together. It's definitely a very fall fabric, but I wore it in the winter, spring, and even in the summer too. It was lightweight enough to wear with like a pair of shorts. And that's one thing that I just really like about this piece is it kind of just, I can wear it all season long. This particular blouse definitely feels like something that would be sold on Doen, which is one of my favorite online boutiques. I've never actually purchased anything from Doen. I look at their garments for inspiration to kind of translate into stuff that I can make myself. But yeah, I really like this one. It definitely feels like a very high-end piece. I don't love to tuck this one in. This one would be cute, I think, completely tucked into pants, not just like a French tuck, but the back, I think it could be a little bit longer because it does kind of like come out of my jeans super easily, and that's another thing that freaks me out is if my top just comes untucked super easily. I don't like that at all. But yeah, it's been working out just fine, just wearing it flowing over whatever bottom I happen to be wearing with it. The next pattern is the Trouser Block pattern by Birgitta Helmersson, and it's like a high-waisted pant with these patch pockets on the bum, and they're nice and long. I feel like there's a lot of pants out there that are like super cropped, and I don't know if it's because the designer is quite a bit shorter than I am, or if that's just the style they're going for, but one thing that I really liked about these particular pants is keeping them very long, especially wearing in the winter, like the fall and winter. I tend to want my pants to be a bit longer. I live in a very cold climate, so I don't really want any cold air escaping up my pants. And I think this one looks really well wearing with like a heeled boot too. It just makes my legs look 6 inches longer than they are. This fabric that I used was the other fabric that I got at that thrift store in South Dakota, and I remember I got 8 yards of this fabric for like $15. It's a flannel material, and it's just the perfect neutral color. It goes with everything, and the color looks nice all year round. I will say I don't wear this in the summer because flannel, but yeah, it feels great for fall, winter, and spring. I've been getting a lot of use out of these pants for sure. I will say when it comes to styling them, I have to be very careful because they can easily look like pajama pants. So I always try to dress it up with like maybe a little bit more of a refined blouse or top. My go-to styling has been with this sweater. I think I wore this exact outfit multiple times this last year, and I just love the way these two look together. The fit of these pants, like, they also just fit my body so well. I think the ratio of the waistline to the crotch is kind of perfect, and it fits super nice in like the bum, and I don't get like a diaper looking butt. So that is something that I really definitely like about this particular pattern, and I can definitely see myself making this one again in the future. Next up is the sweatshirt pattern by Birgitta Helmersson. I remember with this one, I had the fabric first, which was from the fabricmarket.com, and it's this like wool woven fabric. I think it's like a really unique, cool fabric. And originally I wanted to make a fall type jacket out of this material, and then ultimately I decided I kind of just wanted to sew a big cozy sweatshirt type garment. And being that this was a wool material, I wanted it to kind of be like a sweater with that I didn't have to knit. So that's why I decided to make the sweatshirt block by Birgitta Helmersson, or the sweatshirt pattern by Birgitta Helmersson. This is a super cozy sweatshirt pattern. I wore it a bunch last year, but I will say one thing that always is kind of tricky with it is the sleeves are just so big. I think they look super cool for sure, but if you're working with your hands a lot or whatever, the sleeves just kind of get in the way. So that's something to consider, especially in the winter. I definitely always had to layer something like a tight long sleeve shirt underneath this because, again, I didn't want the cold air creeping its way up into the garment. So yeah, something to think about. I think if I were to make it again, I possibly would maybe taper the sleeves at the cuff, and that could be a cool way to hack the pattern. This next garment is another one that I found the fabric first and then found a pattern to pair well with it afterwards, and that is the tie blouse by Cone Sleeve by Puff and Pencil. So they kind of do what Birgitta Helmersson does, is they have a lot of these block type patterns, and then they have different sleeve patterns that you can mix and match with all of their core patterns to make all different versions of these different tops and dresses and whatnot. And I think that's a super cool model to have. I feel like if you buy just like a few like expansion packs, I guess you can call it, you can make so many different types of garments with it. And yeah, that's what I did with this one. I opted for the cone sleeve because I don't know, I think I was just really in a flared sleeve mood last fall and winter because I knit a sweater with the flared sleeve. The sweatshirt that I showed you right before this had the flared sleeve, and then now this blouse had the flared sleeve too. So I was really into that, and I still am. I really like wearing those garments. So this one is described as an open blouse with a V-neck and a loose fit opening with 3 ties that you tie together. So if you're like me, you want to be fully covered, you would definitely need to wear like a layering tank top underneath this, or if you're sassy and just want to wear like a cool bra underneath, I think that would look super awesome with this shirt as well. I am pretty sure that I made the XL for this pattern. I'm really happy with that size, and I definitely would make that size again in the future. And I do really want to make this pattern again in the future. I think the fabric that I used for the shirt is so loud and really cool and quite a statement piece, but it would be also cool to make it in more of a neutral piece that I can make probably even more outfits out of it. Sometimes if I make a garment with loud fabric, it really limits the ways that I can style it. So it's always nice to kind of make 2 versions of the same garment, just to, again, have even more outfits from it. So yes, this fabric was thrifted at a thrift store pretty close to me here in Wisconsin, and I definitely think it's like quilter's cotton, but I wanted to make a top out of it, and it works for sure. I think it works very well. I will say the fabric's pretty thin, which is fine, and it's very obvious the wrong side versus the right side of the fabric, so you could kind of see it like in my sleeve, the wrong side of the fabric, which kind of cheapens it for me a little bit. I don't know, maybe I'm being too hard on the garment, but yeah, I would love to make this one again in like a different fabric, maybe like a linen or something just a little bit more flowy, less structured than quilter's cotton. Next up, we have the Zero Waist Gather Dress by Birgitta Helmersson. This one isn't in her book. It's a standalone pattern that you can just purchase individually, and this is actually the third time I have made this garment. So I made two of them a few years ago. One is the yellow one that I wear all the time. I've worn it in so many of my videos. It's hands down one of my favorite garments I've ever made. The material and the fit and everything about it is just perfect. And then I ended up making it for my friend as well before she got into sewing herself. And so, yeah, and I decided I wanted to make it a third time with more of that flannel fabric that I had from the thrift store. And I'm glad I did. It's such an awesome winter dress. The fabric is so thick that it keeps me nice and warm. One thing though is I can't remember what happened. I accidentally made like the wrong version of the sleeve, or I accidentally cut out the wrong version of the sleeves. I think there's different versions of sleeves that you can use. And I thought I had cut out the same one that I did for the other two dresses, but this one is a bit more of like a 3/4 length sleeve, and it doesn't cinch at the arm either. It kind of flares out as well. So I decided to just go with it. It might not have been like the most perfect pairing with the fabric, being that it's like a winter dress. You'd think that it should be more of a long sleeve, but it works out, especially because I do tend to layer like a turtleneck underneath this one in the winter, like a white turtleneck, so it turns out fine. I think it's fine. This one also, I don't know if it's because the fabric was just so much thicker than the linen that I used in the past, but I definitely made the same size, and this one just turned out way smaller again in like the shoulders and the armpit area, so it does that weird bunching thing again that I don't really love. The chest in general is so tight too, to the point where I even popped a button off, and I found it thankfully in my car, so I still have to attach it back on, so you'll see that I haven't done that yet. So yeah, that's definitely something that I would need to consider in the future. If I'm wearing thicker fabric, I guess I need to possibly go up a size in the garment. Next up, we have the Puffy Dress by Tropical Research, and I did the blouse hack first because I just love the way that the drawings looked in the pattern for it. So originally this one is a tiered dress with many different versions of the garment. I really thought it was cool how many ways you can change this pattern to make so many different garments with it. And I've technically made this one twice now. I did make a short sleeve version of the dress, and I gifted that to my sister for her birthday, so that's not one of them that I'm going to be showing today. And yeah, and then I did the blouse version first. I made it in an XL, which I do think is a good size for me. The finished bust size ranges for this pattern from 51 inches to 63 inches. The fabric, again, is from thefabricmarket.com, and it's a cotton blend of some kind. It definitely doesn't feel like 100% cotton. I don't really know what the blend would be though, but to me, yeah, it just doesn't feel like full cotton. I have a little bit of a hard time styling this one as well. I think the front is just a little too cropped. I would extend it by maybe 4 inches and I would like it a little bit better. I always have to wear something underneath it because it definitely would show my like stomach if I didn't, even with wearing super high-waisted pants. I really like the way the back of this garment flows. I think it's super nice. So yeah, I definitely would extend the front a little bit more. Also because I don't like quite how dramatic the front waterfalls to the back. I don't want it to be that much of a difference. So that is something that I would change in the future. Another thing that I would change is he offers different neckline versions for this pattern too, and I did do just the recommended neckline, which is just a V-neck that meets in the middle, but I feel like it's just a little too deep for me and kind of creates weird gapping issues up at the shoulders. So one of the hacks that he has is the 2 front pieces would overlap a little bit to make kind of like a wrap style dress look, if that makes sense. So I do have plans to make the long sleeve dress version of this again, and I have some fabric that my friend got me. We did like a secret Valentine type thing this year with my friends, and she got me some fabric, and yeah, I envision doing that with this particular piece, and I think it'll look nice. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll see that in the near future. Next up, we have the Archer work pants, and I love them so much I made them twice. This is by Matchy Sewing Club. It's a pattern that came out this spring, and I definitely was like waiting for the pattern to come out, and the moment they released it, I bought it right away. It's an easy-fitting barrel-shaped pant with patch pockets both on the front and the back of the pants. The finished garment hip measurements range from 39.5 inches to 71 inches. The first time I made these pants, I made them in an XL, and I do think they fit nice, but they're like very voluminous, so I decided to make a second pair in the size large, and those also fit nice as well if I want something a little bit less like poofy in the hip area. So the first version I made is with a linen fabric that actually one of you viewers sent me. You sent me some beautiful fabrics. A lot of them are very autumnal colors and materials, so I'm really excited to dig deeper into that this coming fall. But this worked out to make some pants. I've been just wanting some easy linen pants that I can ride around on my bike in the summer and not get too hot, or just hang out and not get hot wearing pants. I really like these a lot. One thing that I would change, and that I did change for the second pair, is raise the back pockets up quite a bit. I feel like based on where they are in the pattern, they just were so low, and I feel like they kind of make my butt look lower than it actually is, and I don't know, I feel like I definitely want to raise my butt as much as I can. Another thing that I would definitely change with this particular pattern is lengthening the pant leg. This is one of those where I feel like the people who design the pattern are quite a bit shorter than me, because looking at all of their photos, it hits more at their ankle, and these pants hit more like that mid-calf, which I feel like can be a little bit awkward looking. So yeah, if I make these again, I'm definitely going to lengthen it. I didn't even think twice about it when I made the second pair. I made the same standard length. So yeah, I kind of wish I had lengthened them. So yes, like I mentioned, I made them a second time in the size large instead of extra large, and this time I used some linen fabric that I got from Blackbird Fabric online shop. I think they have really awesome linen fabrics on there, and I really liked the green and olive green pinstripe look. That is definitely a pattern that I've been going to time and time again, especially this season. I mean, this top I'm wearing right now is also green and darker green striped linen fabric. I love these. I just washed them, so they may look super wrinkly, and my steamer broke. I have to like fix it, so that's why they're all wrinkly, but hopefully with the humidity it pulls the wrinkles out a little bit. This next garment I have not shown on my channel at all. I did show it over on Instagram, but I finished it right as I kind of cut back my videos to once a month for the summertime. And that is the side tie top by Steph Time, who also has a really cool YouTube channel. This is a cropped reversible top with a high neckline and side ties. And the finished garment bust sizing is 29 inches to 55 inches for this garment. This one's really exciting because the fabric that I used is from the first quilt top I ever started making years ago, and I just kind of fell off the bandwagon with it. I decided I didn't really want a full-size quilt out of it because the pieces were just so small. It's the Broken Dishes pattern by Purl Soho, which is a free pattern on purlsoho.com. And it just came to me one day like, well, what if I turned that quilt top and used it for this particular pattern? Because this is a pattern that I had been eyeing out for like a year now. And I magically had the exact amount of fabric that I needed to make the outer version of this piece. And then I ended up doing the reverse side. I went to Joann Fabrics and just got this like heather green quilter's cotton for the reverse side, and I think it's super nice for when I want just like a more plain vest version. One thing that I really like about this particular top is you can easily change the width of it. So if you're wearing like quite a chunky shirt and you want to layer this piece over it, you don't have to worry about it being too tight in the arm area and making it look awkward. You can always just you can tie the sides less tight and accommodate for more room in the sleeve. So for example, I'm styling this with a super oversized t-shirt, more or less to show off how easily you can get the vest to fit over the top of that. And then of course you can wear like a very tight t-shirt or whatever underneath and tighten the straps a little bit to make it fit closer to your body. So I think that's a really cool just feature of this particular pattern. I would absolutely make this one again. I think it would be super nice to make it in more neutral colors to fit with more pieces in my wardrobe. The quilt top side of it is definitely a statement piece. I feel like I do get a lot of compliments on this when I wear it out in public, which is always fun. But if I wore this like every single day, it would be so obvious. So it would just be nice to, use different versions of it. And you also don't have to quilt this piece, and you don't have to use a quilt top for it either. She has another version of it where you don't have to do any quilting to it at all. So if that's something that kind of turns you off, then you don't have to worry about it. You can make just like a plain reversible version of this without the quilting needed. However, it was super easy to quilt it. It was my first time I quilted anything, so if you look real close, it's a little sloppy, but it's such a busy fabric that you can't really tell unless you're looking at it up close, I think. And yeah, I just did it on my machine and it wasn't bad at all. It was a small enough pattern pieces where, you don't need like a long arm or whatever to quilt this particular garment. Moving on is the Fawn Dress by Common Stitch. This is the second time I made this dress. Fun fact, this is actually the first dress or garment I had ever sewn for myself, and it turned out so good. It's such an easy pattern, and I feel like you can whip it up so quickly, like within a few hours from cutting to sewing. And I had kind of impulsively bought this fabric with a bunch of other fabric from Blackbird, and I just loved the fabric so much. It gave me really nice spring summer vibes, and I didn't really have any pattern in mind to make with this. And finally I decided I wanted to show off the fabric more than anything, and I wanted it to just flow nicely. So I thought the Fawn Dress would be just the perfect pattern to really bring attention more to the fabric than the pattern itself. And I think it worked out and paired really nicely with this pattern. The bust size range for this, I'm not sure if it's the finished garment bust or what size you need to be, but it ranges from 31.5 inches to 46.5 inches. And I ended up making a size 14 with this garment, and I'm really happy with that size. It just creates the perfect flowy garment that I can just be free underneath with. Next up, we have the Rosamund Blouse, which is actually the blouse that I am wearing right now. And this pattern was extra special for me because it was the first time I ever pattern tested for a sewing garment. I've definitely done a handful of knitting tests or test knitting, but yeah, it's the first time I did it for sewing. So it was a really fun experience for me. And I should mention the maker is from Madswick Studio. She makes awesome patterns. I think she's kind of an up-and-coming sewing designer, and it looks like she has like 3 more sewing patterns that are about to be released as well. This blouse is an oversized blouse with an optional sailor collar, and then you can make the collar lined or unlined, and there is the option to have the ties on the front as well, and then it's a button-up blouse too. The final garment measurements for the bust range from 40 inches to 67 inches. I ended up making a size 5, and I think it's the absolute perfect size for my body. I'm just really, really happy with how this fit is. The fabric is from a new to me online linen shop called The Linen Lab, and one thing that I love about this particular website is they just like specialize in linen and some linen blends as well. So being that linen is definitely my favorite fabric to sew with, it's really nice to be able to go to just one online shop and have everything be my favorite fabric. So yeah, this particular linen fabric is so pretty. It comes in 3 different colors. So there's this green one that's pine green and lighter pine green, and then there's like a khaki and a grayish looking one, and then a blue and a white stripe as well, which I think is a classic too. And I just think it worked so well with this particular blouse, especially with the sailor collar and everything. I don't know. I love this blouse and I love the fabric, and the two together. This is easily my new favorite garment that I've ever made for myself. And I do plan on making it again. I got some other linen fabric from the Linen Lab as well in more of a neutral tanny brown color that I think will make a beautiful version of this garment as well. And I do think I'm going to do the sailor collar again with it because I just love this detail so much. I just think it's really cool. And it was really fun to make as well. This particular pattern definitely felt more of an intermediate level than a confident beginner like it's kind of marketed as. So the reason for that is just there's a lot of different little fiddly bits involved with it. Like the ties here were a little bit fiddly, but also they're button loops. It's not just like your classic, sew the little button and cut in the middle. You have to sew all these individual little loops on it as well. So there's just a lot of little intricacies that made it feel a little more intermediate to me. But yeah, if you're ever like considering ordering from the Linen Lab or want to check it out, I do actually have an affiliate link in the description below. And if you've ever wanted to like find ways to maybe help out my channel, this is like a super easy way if you're already planning on purchasing linen as it is. Definitely don't feel the need to go out of your way to do that, but I do get like a little bit of a commission if you use the link in the description below. The final garment that we'll be talking about today, I just finished last week, and this is one that I cut and sewed all in one day. It was super quick and easy to make. But I did decide to challenge myself a little bit. I purchased these cloth napkins at an antique store down in Red Wing, Minnesota a few months ago, with the intention of turning it into some type of garment. I have been very inspired by Birgitta Helmersson's Instagram. She finds a lot of antique fabrics and tablecloths and really makes such beautiful garments out of it, and I thought it would be cool to kind of challenge myself to turn a bunch of small fabric into big fabric back into a garment again. So I made this Singlet Block from her zero waist pattern book, and this is just kind of a simple tank top with a higher neckline that I really like, and again you're using the bias binding to make the straps as well as finish off the neckline. The width of the fabric is what determines the size of the garment, and I had the perfect width available. I basically sewed 5 of these cloth napkins together to make, again, the fabric larger, and that's what allowed me to make the exact size that I needed for this tank top. I did also make a design choice by leaving the bottom edges raw, so it gives this like fringy effect at the bottom, and the fringes like secured and finished off because these napkins had that fringe as a detail on them, so I thought it would be cool to keep that detail at the bottom with the fringe, and I really like how it turned out. It just feels like such a summery top and not really a pattern or colors that I would go for in the past, but I'm happy with how it turned out. You may notice that the straps are a little uneven. One is definitely thinner than the other, and that's something that I do have to go back and fix. It's just something that's going to be kind of a slog to fix because I'm going to have to seam rip like a whole strap. And the reason why that happened was all my own fault. I just kind of free-handed cutting out some bias binding from an old tablecloth, and the strips of fabric were just not even at all. And I also was a little bit in a rush making this because I wanted to wear it to a dog's birthday party that I was going to later that day, so I kind of just quickly whipped it up. I knew that the straps were uneven, but I'm like, whatever, I'll go back and finish it later, and I still have to do that. That is everything that I have sewn in the last year. I hope that you gained some insight into some patterns that maybe you've been thinking about making yourself. Let me know if you've made any of these or if you plan to as well. I also would encourage you to give this video a thumbs up if it's something that you do enjoy watching. I think that helps my channel out quite a bit. And if you're new here, welcome. Please consider subscribing and you won't miss out on any future content. In the meantime, it's always great to catch up with you all, and we will chat next time. Bye!